I'm back. Did you miss me? Hey, moms, welcome back to another episode of Mother of the Year. This is Andrea here, the host of your show that is for the perfectly imperfect mom. I didn't have a podcast last week because I've been on house arrest. Okay, not really. Not really on house arrest, but if you've listened to this podcast before, you know that I am a working mom. However, since I'm a teacher, I get a couple weeks off around the holidays. And for one of those 2 weeks, for the first of the 2 weeks that I have off, my children's daycare / preschool was closed, which means that 1 week vacation was not a vacation at all. Now, I wish that I could sit here and tell you how excited I was to have that time with my kids. Normally, I'm at work, so now I get to be with my kids all day. But this episode is called Cuckoo's Nest because by the end of the 1 week that I spent living as a stay-at-home mom, I just about lost my mind. So we'll get to that. So the first part of the vacation, sarcastic air quotes, that I had with my kids, I knew that I wanted to be busy. So I planned on trying to do my first overnight trip with the 2 kids. Now that my son is 8 months old, I'm realizing, oh crap, I probably should have tried an overnight with him many, many months ago, but I can't turn back time, so it is what it is. And I decided to take my kids to spend the night with my parents. Now, part of the reason that I wanted to try this is because every single time I see my dad, he reminds me that they don't always have to come to my house, that I'm always welcome to come to their house. Now, why did I pause before I said house? Because my parents don't live in a house. My senior year of high school, we lived in this really nice townhouse in a beach community. And I had made the decision to move to LA to try to pursue an acting career. Ha ha, epic fail right there. And my parents, one day when I came home from school, my dad, actually I don't remember if it was my dad or my mom, but one of my parents handed me a brochure and said, this is going to be our new home. And I looked at the brochure and it was a picture of an RV, a motorhome. Basically, my parents had sold this amazing townhouse by the beach to live in an RV. Now, mind you, now that we can fast forward almost 20 years since I've graduated high school, I have a lot of respect for my parents. They've now lived in an RV for close to 20 years. Their overhead each month is so small. They hardly have any bills. They don't have a mortgage, homeowner's insurance, anything like that. Who knows though? Maybe they do have to pay some kind of homeowner's insurance, or would it be car insurance? I'm not sure. But anyway, so my parents have an RV, and I'm not sure how many years it's been, but they also bought a trailer, I guess it would be, in a retirement community. So they have their trailer and then they have their RV. So if I go to see my parents, we have to figure out sleeping arrangements between an RV and a trailer. Now, I think I brought my daughter to spend the night for the first time when she was about 4 months old. So maybe that's the boat that I missed. I should have brought my son sooner because, spoiler alert, it did not end well. But let's not jump ahead quite yet. So my dad would always kind of drop these not so subtle hints about wanting me to come see them because it's a good hour and a half, 2-hour commute. And my mom does come see me and the kids probably at least every other week. And we really, really look forward to those visits. So I figured, you know what? I'm off work. I have the time. I definitely want to keep busy with the kids because I tend to struggle most when I don't have plans with the kids. I don't like to have to try to figure out every day how to occupy these two little rugrats. So I figured, let's go for it. That morning, it was the morning after Christmas, my son decided to wake up at 4:15. So after an exhausting weekend of trying to celebrate with different sides of the family and dealing with a daughter who's just been showered with gifts and presents and candy and chocolate, and so getting woken up at 4:15 was not a good way to start that day. But nonetheless, I sucked it up. I knew, you know what? I'm going to be at my parents' house in a few hours. I know my mom will be more than happy for me to take a nap, and so I just powered through. Well, the morning still progressed not in the most positive way. Trying to pack up everything, when you travel with two kids, my daughter's almost 3, my son's 8 months, there's so much to remember. For the baby, you have to remember diapers and wipes and spare clothes and baby monitor and formula and bottle warmer and snacks. And then for my daughter, she's got to have clothes and diapers and wipes and snacks and milk and her sippy cup and toys for the car ride. It's just so much to think about. So before I had even left to start the drive, I was already having second thoughts. But I knew I couldn't back down. I knew I had to go forward because I was going to have to conquer this first eventually. So we did the drive. The drive there was actually fine. There were no issues. I thought this is going great. Maybe my only worry was that I tried to time the drive with when my son was going to be ready for his first nap. And so, lo and behold, within 5 minutes of the drive, he's sound asleep. So I'm feeling good. I've got toddler music going on the radio. My daughter's singing along. I'm singing along. And about 20 minutes later, my son wakes up. And I'm like, oh crap. He was supposed to take a good nap right now. Now he just took this little cat nap. So now I know when I get there, he's probably going to be ready for a nap. So I was already starting to get a little bit anxious. But we finished the drive and we got there. So when we arrive, I can tell my son's rubbing his eyes. He's getting a little bit cranky. He's tired. So, okay, now we got to figure out this sleeping arrangement. We've got a trailer and we've got an RV. So I will say that my parents, considering their living situation, they really try so hard to make it as comfortable as possible. They'll bend over backwards trying to do whatever they can do to make me and my kids feel comfortable. So I get there and we're unpacking the stuff and I am told, oh, by the way, we don't have heat. Now, I live in Southern California where it's pretty warm most of the time, but it is winter, and right now in the mornings it can be in the low 40s. For a Southern California girl, that is cold. So I thought, oh my gosh, my kids aren't going to have heat? So that was a little bit disconcerting. So then I tell my parents, you know what, I think my son's ready for a nap. So I figured I'm going to get him set up in the RV. The RV is parked right next to the trailer, so I knew from previous experiences that the baby monitor would work from the RV to the trailer. So I took out his pack and play. I set it up. I was really nervous because he's actually never even slept in a pack and play. At daycare, they have him in a crib. So I thought, maybe should have tried the pack and play a little bit sooner than 8 months, but it's too late now. So I set it up. I set up the monitor. Oh, wait. Not only does the RV not have heat, it doesn't have any power. So now I'm not going to be able to turn on not only the monitor, but the sound machine that my son sleeps with every night. So I go back to the trailer. I look at my dad, and I'm like, Dad, I need power. Otherwise, this just isn't going to happen. And so my dad kind of begrudgingly goes over to the RV and tries all these different power outlets. None of them work. So then he turns the RV on. So then it's running. So I'm not sure if it's an inconvenience or if it's annoying in any way, but I knew I had to have power if I was going to try to make this work. So I get the monitor on, I get the baby sound machine going, I get his pack and play set up, and I make my son a bottle. So then I'm like, all right, I'll give him a bottle. He's exhausted, he's rubbing his eyes, and I'll put him down for his nap. So I set my son so carefully into the pack and play for him to take a little nap, and my son lost his mind. He was sobbing hysterically. Now, for my son to cry when it's time to sleep, that's not really a rare occurrence. He's a kid that doesn't really like naps. So I figure, you know what? I'm going to give him 5 minutes. A lot of times if I give him 5 minutes of crying, he's sound asleep. So I go next door to the trailer. I have the monitor in my hand. It's a video monitor, and obviously it has audio as well. So I just turned off the audio and I watched him on the video. He didn't stop crying at 5 minutes. He was completely hysterical. So my parents had friends over to see the kids when I got there. And so, again, we're in a trailer. We're in very close quarters. And everybody has an opinion on what I should do for my crying baby. Pretty much everyone was telling me to let him cry. Now, that's usually my philosophy. I know that a lot of times my kids are crying because they're mad, not because they're actually in distress or sad in any way. So I know a lot of times I do usually need to just let them cry for a little bit and then they're fine. This was different. This was my son on all fours, banging his head on the side of the pack and play, basically crying, "Mama, please come get me." So I don't really know how much time I gave it, but I went back in there and he had snot dripping down his face, tears all down his big old chubby cheeks. And I knew I couldn't just leave him there to be in distress. So I picked him up and I tried, doing the whole bounce, hold, shuffle, dance thing that all of us moms have done, and he would not settle down. Now, I'm starting to feel that anxiety build in my chest, like as a mom when things aren't going the way that they need to go. And so I start feeling that kind of sense of panic building inside me. And he's fighting me. My son is big. He's not necessarily at the top percentile or anything crazy like that, but he already weighs at 8 months what my daughter weighed at a year and even a year and a half. She was a lot smaller. And so he's big and he's fighting me and he's twisting his body and, he's going to go flying out of my arms. And I know he needs to sleep and I'm getting frustrated. And so I just grab him and pull him as close to me as I can. And I felt kind of bad for a second because I was like, maybe this is a little bit too much. But once he was physically restrained, all of a sudden his whole body relaxed and he fell asleep. And I was able to put him in the pack and play and he stayed asleep. And so I thought, okay, maybe this trip's going to happen. I can do this now. I just need to get my son to get a little bit of sleep and I know I can handle the rest of the day. Because I knew this nap that he was starting, I think it was around noon, this was going to be it for his nap that day. After the point he woke up, that was going to be it for the rest of the day until he went to bed. So I went back to the trailer and joined everybody again. Well, lo and behold, probably about 30 minutes later, my son wakes up and starts absolutely screaming. So now it's 12:30, and I know he's not going to be getting ready for bed until 6:30 that night. I really felt so uncomfortable. I knew, maybe this just isn't going to work. Because if he can't sleep now, how's he going to sleep tonight? If he's not comfortable now, how's he going to be comfortable tonight? And I start getting that mom panic, deep in my chest, like, it's time to go, it's time to go, it's time to pack everything up, it's time to go. And so luckily my mom's there and she's such a sense of calm for me. And so she's like, it's fine, I will take care of him. just get your daughter's lunch going and I will handle it. Now we come to my daughter. So now it's time for lunch, and after lunch is going to be nap time. So my daughter's almost 3 years old, and she's someone that absolutely needs a nap. A lot of times people, recently we were told by someone, sometimes you have to break the routine. Well, you know what? If my daughter does not have her afternoon nap, she's a monster. And she's a monster all the way up till bedtime. And you know what? Being a mom is already hard enough, so I'm not trying to do anything that's going to make it harder. So I knew that even though we hadn't been at my parents' for that long, maybe a couple of hours, it was going to be time for her to take a nap. And I was so exhausted from being up at 4:15 that morning that I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a nap with her. I have never laid with my daughter and taken a nap. Not on purpose. Sometimes at night when I'm reading to her, I fall asleep, but that's different. So my daughter eats her lunch. I lay down with her. She actually seems tired. She's kind of rubbing her eyes. I tried to keep her nap time routine there, the same as our nap time routine at home. So what that means is I brought all her stuffed animals. I brought her special Elsa pillow. I brought some books. And so we read a story. We had, our quiet time in the bed. And I told her, Mommy's going to take a nap with you. And so I said, close your eyes, go to sleep, which is what I say to her every time we take a nap. And I close my eyes next to her. And I'm so tired. I can't wait to get this little nap in. And I open my eyes, and my daughter's two beautiful, bright blue eyes are staring back at me. And she has this grin, ear to ear on her face. And her response is, no nap today. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, I so desperately need a nap. I am so tired. I so desperately need a nap. So I say it again, close your eyes, go to sleep. And she says, no nap today. So now I've got a baby who won't sleep. And now I've got a toddler who won't sleep. I'm in this teeny tiny trailer next to this teeny tiny RV, and I'm about to completely lose my mind. So after giving it about the good college try of 30 minutes, I came out and I told my mom, it's not happening today. So my mom looked back at me with pity in her eyes, and she said, okay, maybe we should think about packing you up. So I had only been there for about 3 hours, but we knew I had been up since 4:15. I hadn't slept, and if I waited and I left that night instead of right about that time, I was going to be sitting in so much traffic. And it really, under that circumstance, it really wasn't a good idea for me to be driving at night. So even though I had driven almost 2 hours to be there, and I was probably there for about 4 hours, I was going to get back in the car and drive all the way home. So my daughter did not want to leave. She absolutely adores my mom and dad, and she adores where they live. My mom calls it Nana's little dollhouse. So my mom realized, oh, well, why doesn't she stay the night with us and I will bring her home tomorrow? And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Having one kid is seriously so much easier than having two, that even though I would still have my baby, it would be like a little mini vacation. So I was like, perfect. She wants to stay. Obviously, I had everything packed. That sounds awesome. So just as we're kind of moving everything around, getting ready for my daughter to stay the night, my mom, thank goodness she remembered, because I would have been driving back the next day, but my mom remembers, oh, I need her car seat. Well, my daughter's no longer in an infant car seat. She's in a toddler car seat, and this car seat is a beast. My husband struggles moving it in and out of the car. So if my husband, who's like a master carpenter, construction worker, tough guy, beard, all that good stuff, if he has a hard time getting the car seat in and out, I'm not even going to bother trying. So I knew, game over. My daughter wasn't going to be staying the night that night. So, yet again, we loaded everything up. My daughter, luckily, she didn't really fight it. I was worried that she was going to have a giant meltdown at that point. But now it's going on 3 o'clock, and I knew she had to be exhausted. So we loaded everything up. I knew both kids were probably going to crash the minute that we got in the car. And so I turned around and headed home. So, of course, felt like a giant failure. I thought, here we go. I'm trying to do my first night away from home, and it didn't happen. But all I can say is that I tried. That's all I can say. And so, of course, never fails. About 5 minutes into the car ride, both kids were sound asleep. So I actually did enjoy some quiet time for about an hour and a half. I absolutely love driving in my car. That's like my me time that I get. And so I'd already been home with the kids, I think at this point for 3 days, which when you're not used to being a stay-at-home mom, that was already feeling like a week in my mind. So at about the hour and a half mark, my son wakes up, starts talking. Pretty soon he starts crying. For the last 30 minutes of the drive, my son was hysterical. Crying, 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 screaming, coughing, choking, all that great stuff. So the last 30 minutes of the drive, I was definitely banging my head against the car window. It was pretty brutal. So that was the beginning and the end of our first night trying to stay away from home. It sucks. I wish I could do little overnight trips, places with my kids, but they're just not the traveling kind. I mean, I took my daughter to Canada when she was 15 months old. I did 4 flights with her on my own, and that was probably the closest I've come to snapping in public. I've gone to some pretty dark places when I'm home alone, but I was on an airplane, I was in an airport, and by the end of the last trip, when we were walking to baggage claim, I'll never forget the doors open. My sister-in-law is standing there with a big smile on her face. She's so excited to see us. I had tears streaming down my face. I shoved my daughter into her arms, and I just had to walk away for a minute. Like, it was so bad. So bad. I'm a little anxious because this summer we're going to go visit my in-laws in Kansas, and my husband usually drives there because since he does home remodels, whenever he goes to visit his family, they want a bunch of work done, so he usually drives there with his truck. But I told him, no, you're flying with me. I'm not doing this flight alone with 2 kids. It's not happening. I won't make it out alive. Some people can handle it. I definitely cannot. So a couple of days later, I had made plans to go visit my best friend Star, who was the guest on the last podcast. She lives a good hour and a half to 2 hours away from me as well. But again, I got the time off. I want to keep the kids busy. I want to be busy. And so I figure, what the heck? I'll time it with their naps and we're going to do it. It's going to be fun. And so the thing I was stressing out about this time with the car ride is, I don't know about your kids, but I think my daughter gets car sick. Recently, a few months ago, we were headed up again to Star's house for her daughter's 2nd birthday party, and I figured, I'm going to try giving my daughter the iPad. I normally am not a big iPad for the kid person, but in those moments when you're like, okay, this drive could take a couple hours, I want her to be occupied, and I don't want her to wake up her brother if he's sleeping, so I'm going to give her the iPad. So I gave her the iPad, and I think it was about 30 minutes into the drive, she threw up all over her clothes. And I was like, oh my gosh, and I pulled over, and we cleaned her up, and unfortunately, my daughter is very sensitive to the smell of vomit. Sorry if that's gross. But so the smell made her throw up again. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't. If my daughter is throwing up, I didn't know if she was sick. I didn't know if it was a stomach bug. I didn't know if it was her being car sick from looking at the iPad. But I knew I got to take her home. If she's sick, I can't, first of all, bring her around a bunch of other kids and possibly get these other kids sick. But also, if she is car sick, I don't want to torture her by keeping her in a car for another hour and a half. So it sucked so bad because it's my best friend's kid's birthday and I had to miss it. But of course, Star was completely understanding because, hello, she's got 2 kids, she gets it. But now, whenever I'm going somewhere, it's always in the back of my head. I don't want my daughter to get car sick. So I don't want her looking at books. I definitely don't want her looking at the iPad. And I even feel a little bit nervous when she's playing with her toys and I can see her concentrating really hard because I'm worried it's going to make her motion sick. So the whole drive there, I'm like watching her in the rearview mirror, like, does she look nauseous? Is her face looking a little bit green? And I like to do things early in the morning. So it's early morning, which she was probably just tired, but she kept putting her head down. And I was like, oh my gosh, here it comes. She's going to get sick again. And so I had all these bland snacks that were intended for the baby, but like puffs and things like that don't have a lot of flavor. And so I just kept handing her snacks because I figured at least it would coat her stomach and maybe help if she was feeling a little bit nauseous. But no, she did great. We made it there. She had an absolute ball. She had so much fun playing with all the kids that were there. And I tried to time it to go home when it was going to be time for her afternoon nap. So normally she naps, we eat lunch, and this is how it is at her preschool too. They eat around 12 to 12:30, and so nap time usually starts anywhere between 12:30 and 1. So I try to keep the same schedule that they have at her preschool. And so in these kind of situations though, a lot of times I'll push it a little bit because then I know she'll be extra tired, and so I won't really have to wait very long before she falls asleep in the car. So I think we left Star's house maybe around 1:30, 2 o'clock. I can't remember exactly. And so, just like I predicted, she crashed hard. And my son crashed hard. So they're both sleeping in the car. I'm like high-fiving myself, patting myself on the back, enjoying a podcast while I'm driving home, and I'm feeling good. Well, I don't know what happened. I don't know if my daughter had a bad dream or I don't know what, but she woke up after about, gosh, I want to say an hour, but let's be generous. I'll say she slept for an hour and a half. And she woke up and started crying. Now, my daughter's almost 3. She doesn't wake up and start crying, like a baby anymore. So this was weird. And then she started asking for milk. Milk is like her comfort. And so she's crying, I want milk, and she still looks exhausted, but she's upset. Well, she wakes up her brother. So now her brother's awake, she's awake, and we are sitting in horrendous traffic. It was awful. So now I've got her upset, and now I've got my son upset. At first, my son's kind of just chirping, talking, squealing, but eventually he starts crying, and he is hysterical. Again, crying, choking, gasping, coughing, all of this is going on for about 40 minutes, and I'm sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic. And my daughter, she's not crying anymore, but she's super cranky and in a bad mood, and I'm losing my mind. So at about 2.5 hours into the drive home, luckily, I think after the 40 minutes, my son fell asleep. I hate that he had to cry himself to sleep, but what choice did I have? I was in the middle of nowhere. I had to get home. And so he finally fell asleep. So I'm like, all right, this should help. And luckily, Star had given us a bunch of Christmas presents that my daughter was having too much fun playing, so she didn't open any of them. So I'm like, there's got to be a solution somewhere in these Christmas presents. So I just start handing her present, and she's opening them, and one of them is blocks that she plays with for a little bit. And then she opens another one, and it's this coloring book where you have to match the colors with the picture. And of course, I didn't have crayons with me, but I dug deep into that diaper bag until I found, a marker. Do you know how excited my daughter was to be allowed to draw with a marker? So at that point, I didn't care if she took the marker and drew all over her face, all over my car, all over her car seat. I just wanted her to be okay until we could get home. So I gave her that marker so fast, and she was so excited, and we got through the rest of the drive. It took us almost 3 hours to get home that day. I was practically in the fetal position in the front of my car, rocking back and forth because I felt like I was going nuts. So I knew, went to my parents, check, went to my best friend's house, check. I knew the rest of my week off with the kids should go pretty easily. Well, things don't always go as easily as you think they're going to go. Case in point, potty training. I need to potty train my daughter. She's almost 3 years old. I feel so much pressure from everyone around me to get her potty trained. And so I knew I had this time off. I need to get over my fear and just do the potty training. Now, my daughter at preschool, they've had her in pull-ups now, I want to say for a few months. And she's doing great. I don't know what it is. I don't know who has said it, but I feel like everyone around me, which could be my own delusion, who knows, but I feel like people say you shouldn't use pull-ups. Am I the only one? Am I the only one who's heard that? And so I had this aversion to using pull-ups. Now, I was fine if they want to do that at her preschool. That's their deal. That's their prerogative. And it seemed to be going great. But I always had this in my head. I'm not going to do pull-ups. I'm not supposed to do pull-ups. I don't even remember where I heard that now. And so I knew, okay, it's time to potty train. I've got this time off. I'm free. We're going to go cold turkey, and I'm just going to put her in underwear. So what I did is someone recommended this potty training website. And so I went on the website, I ordered a bunch of stuff. I got her this cute little chart that was laminated so you could put stickers on and off. And it had this path up to a treasure chest. And every time she would pee-pee on the potty, she got to add a sticker to the path. And when the stickers finally reached the treasure chest, she was going to get a toy. So day one of potty training was going great. She's having tons of stickers. She's always going pee-pee on the potty. And I even ventured out of the house and went to Target with her in underpants. And I just kept telling her, if you need to go pee-pee, you tell mommy. And she's like, okay, yes, mommy. And so we did great. She didn't even pee-pee when we were at Target. She's dry. I bought her, oh my gosh, you know how it is at Target. I went in to get a few things and ended up leaving with over $200 worth of crap, I guess. I just went down that little dollar aisle and just filled the cart full of tiny little tchotchkes and stickers and slinkies and all kinds of stuff that she could get from the treasure box. So far, so good. So then we come home from Target, and she's playing a little bit with a toy or whatever, and then I see that look on her face, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's pooping. No. And so I grab her, I say, oh no, honey, we go poo-poo on the potty, let's go. And she's actually not fighting it. And she wasn't fighting it because she had already handled her business in her underpants. So I'm like, ugh, crap. Pun intended. So I get her undressed and clean it up, and I don't make a big deal out of it because accidents are going to be a part of the process. And I put her back in some underwear, and we eat our lunch, and now it's time for nap. And so I did put her in a diaper for nap time until, she's further along in the potty training. And ladies and gentlemen, that was pretty much the end of her using the potty. I don't know if it was because she had pooped and so she was scared, but she did not pee-pee in the potty after that point. Where did she pee-pee, you wonder? All over my house. She pee-peed on the rug. She pee-peed on the floor. She pee-peed on the floor in the bathroom. She pee-peed in her pants. Everywhere except the potty. I feel like I was kind of able to rationalize, okay, accidents are a part of potty training. It's to be expected. But after the fourth and fifth accident, I started feeling like I was doing something wrong. This isn't working. Because from my understanding, they're supposed to have an accident, but they're supposed to feel the accident happening or sit in their wet underpants or their wet clothes. And it's supposed to click somewhere in their head oh, I don't want to be in wet clothes. So instead of pee-peeing in my pants, I'm going to go to the potty. And for her, that just wasn't clicking. Now, I think it's me being stubborn and me not wanting to be wrong, but I decided I'm going to persevere because she's going to get it eventually. So that night, put her in a diaper, put her to bed. The next morning, woke her up, put her in underpants, and started our morning with, okay, let's go pee-pee on the potty. And so I walked her into the bathroom, sat her on the potty, and nothing happened. This to me was a red flag because everybody has to pee-pee first thing in the morning. And so I was like, oh crap, like she's still not over this whole not wanting to use the potty thing. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to give it some time. So then I set a timer on my phone. I think I set it for like 20 minutes. And I told her when the timer goes off, we're going to go pee-pee on the potty, or we're at least going to try. So she says, okay, and she kind of goes with the flow. So timer goes off. We go back to the potty, and she says she doesn't have to go. We sit on the potty. She doesn't go. I'm like, okay. So then again, I set a timer. Timer goes off. We go back to the potty, and I said, okay, mommy's going to go pee-pee first. So now I sit down on the potty. I go pee-pee. She claps. She cheers. She gets how this thing works. And so then I tell her it's her turn. She sits on the potty. Again, nothing happens. So now I'm like, totally don't know what to do. At a loss. But I, again, persevere. So I'm out in the front room. I don't know, getting breakfast ready or something. And my daughter says, Mommy, I went pee-pee on the floor. And I look, and again, there's a giant puddle on the floor. Something inside me snapped. I couldn't take it anymore. And we're talking, this is a little over 24 hours of when I started. This is definitely Mother of the Year stuff right here. So if you feel judgment, then maybe you should stop listening because this is not going to be a shining moment for me as a mother. But I'm trying to be honest in this podcast, so I'm honestly going to tell you how I reacted. So I knew I didn't want to get mad at her because, again, it's an accident. And so I clean it up, and I have her help me clean it up, and Mommy's not mad, not outwardly anyway. And so I clean her up. I let her be. Go play, do whatever you got to do, and I go to my husband, and I completely break down in tears. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm so frustrated. I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and it's not working, and she's peeing all over the house, and I just don't know what to do, and I'm crying, and I'm like, I'm a failure. I'm a terrible mother. Now if I go back to diapers, I'm going to have to start all over again, and I'm sobbing. Now, mind you, my husband is a fixer. He likes to fix things. He will build me my dream house from the studs up. So when I'm upset about something, and it's not something my husband can necessarily fix, he doesn't always handle it the best. He just kind of looks at me like, oh my God, what do I do? She's freaking out. What do I do? And I wish I could just hand him a script. And this script could say things like, you know what, honey? You're doing the best you can for our children. You know what, honey? Things are going to happen, but you'll try again another day and it will be great. Hang in there, honey. You're doing great. But my husband's not a mind reader. My husband's not an actor, so he's not reading from a script. So at first, he just kind of gets frustrated, like, I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe you need to try this, maybe you need to try that. But the poor guy, everything he suggests, I'm just super defensive because I feel like I'm the one that's screwing up here. I'm the one that's making the mistakes, and I don't want to admit that. I don't like failure. I don't like feeling like a failure. I'm someone that's always gotten good grades. I'm someone that's always tried really hard at their job. I'm someone that's always tried really hard in their friendships. Like, I try in every aspect of my life. I try. And I think that's why I struggle with being a mom so much, because I can try so hard. I can try. But these are little human beings that have their own emotions, have their own little lives going on, and they're not always going to respond and react in the way that we would want them to. We don't have control over them. Yes, we can discipline them and we can teach them things, but honestly, they're little people and they're going to react the way they're going to react. And so after this complete breakdown, I just realized I got to start over. I can't, this isn't working. This going cold turkey into underwear is not working. And so I went into my daughter's room. I put a diaper on her. I went back to my bedroom and just lay down and cried. And it was so pathetic. It's kind of like, get your crap together, woman. But I just felt so defeated after traveling the week before and failing, and now I'm trying potty training and I'm failing, and my daughter's literally peeing all over everything. I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I made the decision that even though I've been so against pull-ups, it works for her at school, and so I feel like that's got to be the next step for us. So I'm giving it a little bit of time, and I'm actually going to do a little more research about how potty training with pull-ups is beneficial. I'm overthinking about it being negative because honestly, I can't handle any more negativity when it comes to potty training. I don't know what's wrong with me. I wish I was stronger when it came to this stuff, but I'm not. I hate that I can try so hard and just, it's like brick wall, brick wall, brick wall. And so I need to just check my ego and try something new. And if that's what works for her at school, then that's what's going to have to work for her at home. So I made that decision, and the next couple of days after that were pretty rough. I'm not going to lie. I'm not meant to be at home all the time. Even before I had kids, again, being a teacher, I'd be off for the summer. And by the end of summer, I would be dying to go back to work. I like to be busy. I like to be productive. And work is something where I can work so hard and then I see the results. I see the rewards. And that's what I love. And so at this point, I'd been home with the kids on house arrest for about 10 days. And I was like probably the closest to depression I've ever been. I guess I'm not going to try to be funny about it because it's a real thing. It was rough. It was really rough. My son, every nap that he had to take, he would fight it. And it's so hard because I know him. I know he's tired and I just want to sit with him in the chair and rock him a little bit. And he fights me. And now that he's crawling like a maniac, he just wants to be out of my arms and on the floor. And then the second he's on the floor, he wants me to hold him. And it's just maddening. And then on top of that, I got to figure out what my daughter's going to eat. And then every meal she has to fight me on it for a good 5-10 minutes, which a lot of times turns into timeout before the meal even starts. And it's just insane. And so by the end of my time with them, I really was pretty depressed. And I was to the point where I was going to ask my husband to take the next day off because I had one more day before they went back to preschool and daycare. And I just didn't feel like I could do it. And I'm so full of shame. I feel like I should be able to handle it. I should feel lucky to have this time with the kids, but I'm just being real. It's so hard. I think really only once during that 10 days did they take a nap at the same time. So that means, for the entire day, there was always someone pulling on me, whether it was emotionally or physically. It was really draining, really exhausting, and it was pretty dark. So I was going to ask my husband to take the next day off because when I have my partner, when I have him with me, I feel like I could do it so much easier and I enjoy it so much more. And so luckily, when he came home from work that day, he let me know that he was going to take the next day off. And I think he could see kind of the pain in my eyes, like the desperation. And I'm so lucky that, I might make my comments about him or kind of tease and say how I feel like I do everything. But one thing he does do for me is accept my struggle, empathize with it. Like, he'll never say, like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're their mother, you should be able to handle this. Like, he looks at me with kind of like pain in his eyes. Like, he doesn't want to see me struggle. He loves me, and he knows how hard I want things to be good, how much I want to be a good mother. And when he hears me say things like I'm a failure or I'm not a good mom, like, that hurts him. And so we spent the last day that my kids were home together as a family. And, it was a really, really great day. I needed it. I needed to have fun with my kids. I needed to have fun with my husband. And, I needed to remember, gosh, even the importance of their routine. Like, so finally the kids go back to school and daycare yesterday, and they need that. They need that routine. They have their friends there. Like, even my son, who's a baby, he was beaming. He was smiling so big when I took him, because this is like a part of his life. And they were both away from that for a week. And so today was their second day back, and my daughter definitely struggled more today than she seemed to yesterday. But it just reminds me that that's why it's so important to keep the routine going. So I posted a picture on my Mother of the Year podcast Instagram account where Monday night, because they went back to school on Tuesday, Monday night I went out for margaritas. I needed that drink after everything I had been through in the last week, between the holidays, between being home with the kids, between, trying to keep my mind together and not lose it completely. I needed that drink, and I knew I wasn't going to have to be home with kids the next day. Isn't that horrible? Woo! I go back to work in a few days, and do you hear that? Total, complete silence. I couldn't even do a podcast last week because I did not have 1 minute to myself. Those little pieces of time in the car, that was about it. So there was no way I was going to be doing a podcast when I finally had my kids asleep and I'm trying to be quiet. It's just insane. I wish so badly I could do this better. Every single day, I feel like a failure. Every single day. But, and sometimes I even wonder, like, should I keep doing the podcast? Like, I don't even know how many people are listening. So if you're listening to this, thanks. Say what's up. Say what's up either on Instagram or send me an email to motheroftheyearpodcast@gmail.com. Say what's up. And, because sometimes I just think, like, why do I even bother? It's just one more thing that I have to do. But this morning I was on Facebook and I was looking at, if you don't follow Scary Mommy, you should. It's amazing. And it's probably the one really helpful thing that's gotten me through these hard times of being a mom. So the title of the article is What It's Like to Be a Stay-at-Home Mom on the Verge of Depression. And if you've ever felt depressed, now I'm not talking like clinical depression or anything like that. Like, I hate to even say the word because I don't think I've dealt with depression and I don't want to disrespect someone that does. But I've had some pretty dark thoughts in those moments. And so maybe it is depression. I don't know. But this article was written by a mom who is stay at home, and how, every single day she would feel upset about things, but she would tell herself, you don't deserve to feel sad about that because some people have it worse. And how she would just push her sadness down further and further and further until it came out as anger. And I appreciate hearing the stories of other women who struggle, because I'll tell you, when I was having that really hard day a few days ago, I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want to tell my husband. I didn't want to tell, any of my close friends. It's like you don't know how to explain it. And I just would close my eyes and tears, and I would just think like I made a huge mistake becoming a mom. Like the fact that I don't feel this, I don't know, like I don't feel like I'm good at it. And I get told all the time that I'm a great mom. And so it's like, are people just being nice, or is that real? And so all I can do is just put one foot in front of the other and just tell myself there are going to be good days and there are going to be bad days. And, yesterday I picked them up from school and had a few hours with them before bedtime. And I mean, I was on the floor playing with them. We had music playing. We were dancing. It just, I just know I can be a good mom when I take time for myself. And that's all I can do. I don't know if that makes me a good mom or a bad mom or what, but I can only be the mom that I can be, and know that my daughter loves me, and that my son loves me, and that my husband loves me, and that I am just what's right for my family. So, been a crazy week and a half, hence the title of the podcast, Cuckoo's Nest. You can actually go on my Instagram at Mother of the Year Podcast and check out the sign that my awesome sister-in-law made for me. It says, "Welcome to our Cuckoo's Nest," because that is my reality. So I think that's it for this week, moms. I missed you. Hopefully you enjoyed coming back to listen. If you have any feedback or comments, you can email me at motheroftheyearpodcast@gmail.com. Please subscribe to the podcast on Instagram. Leave it a review and rate it 5 stars. And don't forget, moms, the struggle continues next week. Bye for now.